the new surface and quick time. As the drivers talk about the racing surface, the tires, and the winning combination needed to win night number 1. And finally, Mark Warnes talks about getting pumped up for the first race of the season. It's a brand new day and a brand new deal. The brand new racing surface is about to be put to the test right here at Riverside Park Speedway for the first event to be run right here in the Northeast. Hello, I'm Ben Dodge, and I welcome you to the excitement of another edition of Raceweek. Well, in this edition of Raceweek, it's cold but a beautiful afternoon here at the Riverside Park Speedway. And the men of the NASCAR Winston Modified Tour in short track racing are about to try their skills at the toughest and fastest quarter mile of them all. There's a brand new racing surface. It'll be put to the test today. And names like Reggie Ruggiero, Tommy Bowles, Stan Greger, and Bruce D'Alessandro will look to be the first names to be added to the list of impressive winners right here at the quarter mile. But that won't be the only story. The pro stocks will be on hand, the late models, and a whole lot more. But right now, it's time to talk to some of the drivers as they tell us exactly how they feel about a brand new Riverside Park Speedway. It all started back in September of 1985. The management of Riverside Park Speedway decided that it was time for a new racing surface. The final event that was run that season saw Reggie Ruggiero looking strong. But by the time November rolled around, there was a new racing surface that was already starting to be put down. The old Riverside was soon to become the new Riverside. A changing of the angle of the banking and the turns, and even from the first practice session, you could almost see the markings that they'd be troubled at the brand new Riverside Park Speedway back in 1985. Well, 1986 was now a start of a brand new year. There was a capacity crowd in attendance, and John Rosati would lead the field of modifieds into turn number 1. Initially on the start, the racetrack had its problems. The surface was starting to roll, and Ruggiero couldn't muster up enough steam, then driving the 11 on the outside. Jerry Marquis would run strong for a while, but heavy favorites like Mike Stefanik would seem to master the inside groove. But lap traffic would be the story as Ruggiero would drop off the pace, mighty Mike Stefanik would pull away out in front. And for Ruggiero, the new surface just wasn't magic at all back at Riverside Park. And the only way a competitor like Marquis could run the outside is when he was slightly off the pace. Then late in the competition, Stefanik, the leader of the event, would get tangled up as Stan Greger would go around. But he'd go back to the front of the field and dominate the racing action to win the first event on the new Riverside. Well, that was then, because in 1987, the new racetrack became the old racetrack. And in the competition here, the heavy veterans like Bob Pulvereri would have a tough day at Riverside. He'd get mixed up early in a skirmish. And moving to the outside, old Mr. Excitement was at Riverside, and Mike Stefanik was hunting him down. Lap after lap, the two would battle as Mike McLaughlin would be driving car number 9. But it was Jim Spencer who dominated the racing action at the front of the field to win the first event of 1987. Jim Spencer would later go on to become the champion of the NASCAR Winston Modified Tour. In 1988, it was Dave Brizendis to the inside of Reggie Ruggiero on the opening night. The surface, well, now the teams have adjusted to it quite well, with the exception of Mike Stefanik, who started the season off having to go to the pits and come from the back of the pack. It was a battle of the 7s right up front as Stan Greger and Tom Baldwin made contact as Baldwin would slide to the center of the infield, then regroup in the competition. Dave Rossetti's would also go around with car number 79. But back up front, 2-car bid for the lead, it was the Reg, holding off the challenge to secure the event victory for the first event of 1988. Well, 1989 rolled around and havoc began before the race even started. Reggie Ruggiero was out of the competition, even in hot laps at car 44. Mikey Winitsko and Dan Avery were looking real strong, and so was Bruce D'Alessandro. So Avery and Iwanitsko would come together as Iwanitsko would cut a tire on car number 36. A mad scramble, then it was car 37. Now for Ted Christopher involved in the mix-up here. Back to the pits, the story was a whole bunch of teams fighting to be back into the race for the first event of 1989. And for some, it would be a day that they would remember. But when the field went back to green, it was Bruce D'Alessandro who would run strong up front. Joe Rezacek and Larry Moore would also be impressive when suddenly Avery would be involved in the mix-up here. And that wouldn't be the only car. Ricky Summers and Johnson also involved, as Avery would try to struggle to get back to the pit area. But for Stan Greger, this day had ended rather quickly for him and his team. But back up front, the field was now sparse. John Zavisa was running in the number 2 spot when suddenly he cut a tire as D'Alessandro was way out in front. The story would now be a visit to the pit area by John Zavisa. D'Alessandro stayed out, but Zavisa's new rubber would give him the racer's edge to the bottom side of the racetrack. Bruce D'Alessandro would fight lap after lap, but Zavisa was just too quick in the bottom groove. There was no question about it. It was a race right down to the checker. Zavisa was still desperately trying to make the bottom work, and the magic couldn't be found until he drifted up just a bit and took over position number 1. From then on, it was clear sailing for John Zavisa as he would win night number 1 during 1989.
Bruce is tough. He's really tough. He had the same tire combination on his car, I believe, that we started out with, and my car started going away. And I think it was kind of lucky for me that the tire just fell off the wheel where it did.
And then at the end of 1989, Ed Carroll and Ben Dodge decided that Riverside needed a brand new racing surface. And the new racing surface was put in at the end of October. And when the competitors came back to Riverside, they not only liked the racing surface, but they were faster than ever before.
Well, I think the pavement's real smooth. It doesn't seem bumpy or anything, and the car seems to really bite into it. It's a fast surface, and hopefully as we run a few races on here and get a little bit of rubber on it, it'll get better.
It's very smooth. I call it myself, it's like black silk, and it's fast and furious. And look out, about midsummer.
Well, the track is a lot smoother than last year. It's a little harder on tires right now, but once it gets worked in, I think the compound will start to soften up. But it's real smooth, and the times are right down there. By midsummer, you see some real good racing here.
Well, it's super smooth and real fast, and I like it. I was out there in practice when we came up early this morning, and we practiced all day, and the car got better and better. I love it. They did a nice job.
Seems great to me. We're getting around real quick, faster than we ever have before. So I think it's going to be a big plus. It has both lanes, and we're able to pass on the bottom and on the top. So I think it's going to be great.
Well, it's really smooth as opposed to the old surface where there was a lot of bumps and grinds. So the cars run very smoothly. They don't bounce around as much. Car's much more stable. Right now in the new pavement, the cars are a little tight, but I'm sure they'll come around just fine.
Smooth, real smooth. The cars seem to stick a lot better because of the smooth surface, and it's fast. It's definitely really fast. It feels like we got another lane out there too this week. We can get the car going pretty good down the bottom as well as up the top. So just the smoothness of the surface is definitely the biggest change, I feel.
Mike, what about the new track surface?
Well, Brian, the track seems really fast this year. You can really stay on the throttle, pick it up a lot earlier in the corner, and should be an exciting race tonight.
The drivers have told us exactly how they feel about the racing surface here at Riverside, and now it's time to find out exactly who is the best here at the quarter mile. Well, next we'll be taking a commercial break, and when we come back, we'll take a look at the Eagle Snacks 100 for the modified Pro Stocks late models, and a whole lot more right after this. To go racing once again, and Reggie Ruggiero and the Magnum 44 race team are ready. They have won at the Martinsville Speedway, and now they want event number 1 here at Riverside Park. But the story is the cars around me, they equally want the same thing. Who'll be the best? We'll soon find out as we take a look at the Eagle Snacks 100 from Riverside. There were 32 modifieds assembled at the quarter mile for the first feature event of the 1990 season. And by luck of the draw, it was Tommy Bowles, star of the NASCAR Winston Modified Tour, starting to the inside of the front row. Other Modified Tour veterans in the competition would include Mike Stefanik, Reggie Ruggiero, and even a Winston Cup star like Kenny Bouchard. As the field went to green, Tommy Bowles would get the bite on the inside and quickly start to string it out at the front of the field. Further back in the pack, the defending champion, Bruce D'Alessandro, was trying to get to the front. But early in the competition, Mike Stefanik would look strong with car number 37. And Jerry Marquis would also quickly move to the outside. Veteran four-time champion Bob Polverari was looking for some magic, but it didn't exist early in the competition here. And Dan Giovanelli, defending champion from Riverhead, was trying to make the inside groove work as Bruce D'Alessandro was trying to run high. Jeff Fuller would also run strong for a while with car number 00, but no real luck there. But back up front, Tom Bowles was literally pulling away in the competition here. Literally lapping cars now among the top 10 as Bowles would thread the needle through traffic and set a blistering pace in the front of the field. The times were now in the low 12, faster than ever before at the new Riverside Park Speedway. And Stan Greger was running strong. He was now among the top 5 cars with car number 28. The Reds was trying to find magic as he was glowing in the inside with car number 44. As Greger was running strong, suddenly a mix-up would occur off turn number 4. Dan Avery would go around. Involved in this would be John Zavisa in car number 711. As the field grouped back together, Bowles would have a problem initially on the restart, and that would send a shock back through the remainder of the field. But all was okay. Brad Hightower was also trying to get dialed in, and Brian Schofield was running good. Ken Bouchard, driving car number 0, was trying to run among the top 10 cars, but not having much luck. Then suddenly Ruggiero would get backed up, have some damage to the front suspension, well, almost damage, as he would gather it back and head to the pit area with a Magnum 44. Ricky Summers was running strong in a quest for position number 3 as Ruggiero had come back to the front of this field. Summers was getting hooked up on the outside with a brand new Simons number 9, and he was looking like a sure contender for the victory as Tom Bowles was literally gone at the front of this field. It was Rick Summers and the Reds to battle lap after lap. Wade Cole was a lapped automobile. And then Jerry Marquis would suddenly reel in on Tommy Bowles. Heavy traffic up ahead. It was Ken Bouchard who was now the lapped automobile. But Tom Bowles would not falter a bit. Jerry Marquis was getting closer, but close just wasn't good enough. Then suddenly Rick Summers would have a problem with the suspension with car number 9, as Summers would drop off the pace and spin to the inside to bring out yet the second caution of the event with car number 9. But back up front, Marquis would make a bid for it. He dived to the inside. Eddie Spires, a lapped automobile, and Ed Kennedy, a lapped car, would hold off the heavy front-running pack as they were battling now for position number 1. And Mike Stefanik, in a late event charge, he'd make a bid for the 3rd spot with Reggie Ruggiero. Kenny Bouchard was running a little further back in the pack with car number 0. But the battle was still on. Stefanik had now mustered up some steam on the inside, and Ruggiero was still holding on the outside. Tom Bowles was still the leader of the pack. Marquis would challenge. This would be the closing circuit, and it was Tommy Bowles to win in the Hoosier tire number 76. Jerry Marquis would finish in second on Hoosiers. Then it was Reggie Ruggiero and Mike Stefanik. But for Tom Bowles, it would be his second victory at Riverside. The first of 1990 were $1,700.
Fun stuff a little bit. We ran with a harder tire tonight because we were afraid to blister tires and stuff like that, and went with a harder Hoosier because our Goodyears just weren't holding up for us, and the tires stood the test tonight and ran real well for us.
Now, with the new track and the cold temperatures, how much did that affect your car and the setup?
Well, it took a few laps to get some heat in the tires. The car was real skittish when we got going there, and once it took me like 4 or 5 laps after them restarts, it was just tough to get going, but try to maintain a steady pace once we got rolling.
Yeah, the car was running real well. We had to start a little bit further back than Tommy, and I was biding my time the first few laps because tonight is real cold out, and we wanted the tires to get good and warm before we decided to do anything with it. And after, I think it was about 10 or 15 laps, the car started really feeling good coming in where it belonged, and I put it on the bottom. When I saw Reggie, I said I had to make my move. He was starting to work his way down the bottom, and I knew that I could do better than that, and I just put it on the bottom. We started running. We passed the 3 cars. It took a couple of laps. And then when I looked up front after I passed those 3 cars, I looked for Tommy, and he was gone. Then we had a restart, and there was a lot of lap traffic in between. And it just worked out for his benefit with the lap traffic. We were on the Hoosier tires, and they were super tonight, me and Tommy. And I think we were about the only 2 on the tires tonight. And we really did a number on the whole field, and I think that's our key combination for tonight's second-place finish.
We were just trying to get the right setup for the new racetrack. We didn't hit it very right, right at the beginning. Car was real loose. They only let you change 2 tires under caution. If we could have changed 4 at one shot, we would have been right there at the end. But seeing we could only change 2, we changed 2 at lap 31, I believe it was. Came back lap 76, and there was only like 20 laps to go when I did get going again. So we came back up to 3rd. I'm very pleased with that, but I wish we could have won. Being the first time we've been on this new racetrack. We'll get it next week.
The Pro Stock feature event instantly, right from the start, saw Dave Caruso and Blaine Bells duke it out at the front of the field. Caruso running last year's car would set the pace, and Bob Sokolowski would run strong to the inside of Blaine Bells. The battle was now a battle for second. A little further back, there was another battle going on as front-running competitors like Scott Booley would work their way to the front of the field. Gary LaMountain would run very strong to the inside, first time ever at Riverside. And what about the defending champ? Well, he was on a roll as Mark Perino would try to work the inside groove. Jerry Marquis had handling problem, and Dan Avery was looking good in his first outing in the Pro with car number 10A. Brian Crunden was also looking very strong on the outside of Mark Perino, as Perino was coming from the back of the pack like gangbusters with car number 52. Bob Sokolowski was holding on to second. Mike Duquette, a lap automobile, was having his share of problems as LaMountain would go to the outside with car number 99. But it was Caruso who was so smooth at the front of this field. He had the PT watch machine really dialed in. Suddenly, LaMountain would get crossed up, and Perino would go to the outside, maintain his spot as LaMountain would go spinning with car number 99. It was then Perino who'd work his way to the inside and take over second. Time was running out, but Perino was on a roll. The purple Dayglow pink and green number 52 was coming to the front with flair. There was less than one circuit remaining. Caruso was on the outside. Perino was right there to contend as Caruso would take down the win. Mark Perino in for second. Bob Sokolowski was third over Tom Rosati and Blaine Bells. The late model feature event was 25 laps in distance, and Joe Scatta and Ray Turtelot would be starting in the front row. There were several new competitors that were moved up through the ranks, like car number 81 for defending champion Tim Smith. Danny Lavoie would have a problem initially and get crossed up just a bit. Then it was Don Wood who'd run the 51 to the outside over defending champion car of Tommy Fern. They'd dice it up a little bit, and Wood would get crossed up, and that would cost Lavoie a little bit of time on the racetrack. But Tom Carey had moved to the inside of Larry Vassar. It was Johnson who was running strong in the quest for position number 2. He'd set in the second spot with the GTO, car number 76. Then it was Carey who was making a bid for it. Carey had moved to the inside to try to work his way in the bottom lane. They'd be evenly matched for the quest for position number 1. Then it was Tom Carey who would now quickly move down in front. Johnson would have to settle for second, and Vassar was on a roll to the bottom. Further back in the pack, it was Kevin Zarnicki who'd come to the front. But Tom Carey would hold on and take down the win. Zarnicki in for second over John Johnson, G. Perry, and Gary Tremonti.
Hi, I'm Jerry Marquis. I drive the modified 2X and the 73 Pro Stock. Right now we're going to be taking a commercial break, and we'll be back with more great racing here on Race Week.
Welcome back to Race Week. Well, these grandstands are empty now, but on Saturday night they were filled with excited race fans as they came out to witness the excitement of the first event of competition. Well, speaking of competition, let's go back to the pit area here at Riverside Park for more Saturday night excitement as Brian Danko will talk with some of the front-running teams like Stan Greger and Dan Avery about what's in store for 1990.
One of the big stories here in the pit area for 1990 season is Dan Avery. Now, Dan Avery's been a long-time modified competitor, but his number 10A modified, but also for the first time in a Pro Stock. Danny, why, I guess?
Well, we got together with Porter and Chester. We had a couple of meetings last fall, and they're very interested in getting involved in auto racing and getting the students involved and getting some of the students down here to participate with us. They were interested in the Pro Stock division. They like those types of cars. They can relate to the street-type car with that body style and that. So here we are.
A lot of times people say that there's a big transformation period going from the open-wheel modified to a closed-body Pro Stock. How have you found that to be?
It's a little bit tough. I find that when I get in the modified, I'm at home. You know, I can go right out there and step right on the gas right away. With the Pro Stock, I'm a little bit intimidated. The tires are a little bit different. It takes me 3 or 4 laps to get rolling, where the other guys that are in this Pro Stock division seem to get away from me in the beginning there. But I think we'll catch on after a little while.
Dan, now last year you finished 8th in the regionals, and you ran both Monadnock and Riverside. Now, what's your schedule look like this year?
Well, this year we're planning on running Riverside with both the Pro Stock and the Modified. We're going to start out Friday nights at Stafford with the Pro Stock, and we're going to run Sunday afternoons with the Modified at Monadnock. And whatever track we seem to be doing better at, whether it be Monadnock with the Modified or vice versa with the Stafford with the Pro Stock, that's what we're going to stick with.
Another story that we've been following at Riverside Park is the one of Stan Greger of Southington, Connecticut. Now, Stan has been here at Riverside for parts of 3 decades. Now, Stan, you came here in the late 70s, and you've been here ever since. What kind of changes have you seen in the park since then?
Oh, I've seen the race cars get a lot faster, mainly the faces behind the wheels. You know, there's a lot of young guys, a lot of potential superstar race car drivers that come to Riverside Park. You see them, and all the guys I used to race with, there's a few of them left, me, Reggie, Bobby, and that's about it. There's a lot of new people.
Now, Riverside has always been one of the toughest tracks to race at, and yet you've conquered it 3 times, winning the track championship. Last year, you just missed out to your good friend, Bruce D'Alessandro, for a 4th.
Well, Bruce was a better man last year. He had a better season. We just had our problems towards the end of the year. I just hope we can really put it together this year. I'd like to have a 4th championship.
Now, when you first started in the 70s, and even before then, you raced at Plainville Stadium in the old coupe cars, really. What kind of changes have you seen body style, and has it made a big difference in the outlook of the sport?
Oh, definitely. You know, it's like anything else. Everything is getting modernized. The race cars, for sure. You know, the body styles are more aerodynamic. They're just keeping up to the times. The tires are a lot better. The motors are a lot better. The cars are a lot faster than they have been in the last 10 and 15 years.
Now, Stan Greger has really stayed pretty close to home at Riverside Park, running an occasional big show here and there. What are your plans for 1990?
Well, mainly we're going to stick right here because our budget's a little on the low side. And if we can hit a few shows, say like Monadnock, we're going to.
Well, next, Mark Wernes is going to be asking a question that a lot of you race fans would like to know. Do the drivers still get all pumped up and excited over opening day racing as a brand new season and perhaps a new decade begins right here at Riverside?
Opening day means there's never enough time to get your car dialed in. West Springfield driver Bob Polvereri.
You never come in here real cool because, you know, you don't know what to expect. And with the new track now, newly paved, it's going to be a whole new ball game for us. And
for Polvereri and his new 711, warm-ups were the season's maiden voyage.
We would have liked to come out last week and practice a little bit, but unfortunately we had to come out tonight and find a few leaks here and there, but you know, it takes time to sort them all out.
Modified Tour champion Mike Stefanik enjoys opening day. Mike comes to Riverside motivated.
I always get excited when I come to a racetrack. I love to race, and you know, it's just fun. The atmosphere, you know, you smell the fuel and the rubber and this and that. You just, you know, you just want to just go.
The new paving job at Riverside helped to raise the usual spirited opening day emotions.
Much of the talk in the pit area on opening day dealt with the new paving job on the track. Some of the drivers saying that this track could be a second faster than the old one.
I love it. I'll tell you, it's nice and smooth, and the guys are going to be able to run real good, and there's a good group from down here tonight.
1990, a season that begins with excitement and anticipation, and hopes that headaches are kept to a minimum. I'm Mark Wernes reporting for Raceweek.
Thanks, Mark. Well, me as an announcer and promoter at Riverside Park, I still get pumped up for the excitement of competition during any opening day event. Well, the racing action here at Riverside Park Speedway has never been better. There's no question about that. Tommy Bowles ended up in the winner's circle on Hoosier tires, and that's kind of something new. Besides that, there was great racing action in the pros, and congratulations goes out to Dave Caruso for securing his first impressive victory of the 1990 season. On the next edition of Race Week, we'll be visiting event number 2 on the NASCAR Winston Modified Tour, as we'll be at the Thompson International Speedway for a look at Icebreaker 1990. Besides the NASCAR Winston Modified Tour, the Pro Stocks, the late models, and a whole lot more will be assembled at the 5/8 mile facility in Thompson, Connecticut. In addition to that, we'll be right back here at Riverside to take a look at night number 2 in the competition here. Combining that with a lot of stories from behind the scenes, and you've got the next edition of Race Week. Until then, we say take care, and we'll see you again next time with the best in motorsports, only right here with us on Race Week. Take care. Bye-bye now.